Since the start of the pandemic, officials in the UK have gone back and forth about the best way to protect their citizens from the coronavirus. However, as the government pushes for kids to return to school and adults to go back to work, there are still concerns whether those officials are making the right decision. CBS News contributor Simon Bates joins us with this week's edition of London Calling, and we should note Simon's opinions are his own, not necessarily reflective of CBSN.
Now, you know when a politician says one thing one day and then a day or so later backtracks and comes out with completely the opposite. You call it flip-flopping, I believe. We call it making a U-turn. And back in 1980, the former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher dismissed political U-turns with pure contempt.
To those waiting with bated breath for that favourite media catchphrase, the U-turn, I have only one thing to say. U-turn if you want to. The ladies not for turning.
Not so Britain's current Prime Minister Boris Johnson. His many U-turns are becoming a bit of a habit. England's children are returning to school where the official advice has been for them not to wear face masks. Teachers' unions protested, but the government insisted no face masks. That was until it flip-flopped and recommended their use under certain circumstances. Still on education, the virus caused the cancellation of important national examinations here. The authorities created a secret computer algorithm to award each pupil a grade, but there was an almighty row when many kids from poorer backgrounds had their grades marked down. The government stood firmly by the system until it was dumped in, you guessed it, another U-turn. And it's not only in education where we've seen the flip-flopping. Back in April, plans were unveiled for a uniquely British contact tracing app to prevent the spread of the virus. Boris Johnson was warned that it was too complex, but still claimed it would be world-beating. It never worked, and it was abandoned a few weeks later. In May, ministers suddenly announced that Britain would impose a 14-day quarantine on everyone travelling into this country. The hospitality and aviation sectors went crazy, and the government realised it was on thin ice. To save face, it quickly created a series of quarantine-free air bridges, freeing up travel from many key countries. And back to education for one more. In June, there were calls to continue our free school meal scheme through the summer holidays. Child poverty is a big deal over here. Ministers initially refused, but it took a very personal intervention from this leading soccer player to bring yet another climb down. I wonder which image is projected to the general public: an administration that will buckle in the face of public pressure, or a government that is listening to the people? You decide. That's London Calling for today. This is Simon Bates for CBS News in Devon.